back. The Sniffer dogs brought into the island last week to find out if people are buried behind Tivoli Gardens have zoomed in on several places of interest. However, the police have not yet found any human remains. The smell of freshly dug dirt greeted our news team when we got behind the Edward Fialgo Sports Complex. Dogs had been a-sniffing and police had been a-digging. The Sniffer dogs started working shortly after 8 this morning, and they found something of interest in this location. ACP Les Green confirmed that the police have found a number of sites of interest. This hole was dug today, and they intend to dig more in the coming days. In this hole, they found bones, but they're not sure whether they are human remains. ACP Les Green said whatever was found today is nothing of value. He said the police were looking for bodies and none was found today. However, a source told our news team that the bones were sent to the lab for testing. The police wouldn't say how many of these sites of interest were found. These yellow flags are indicators. We counted about 3. A few meters away, a site is being prepared for the dogs to do more sniffing. But this won't be the only site searched for human remains. Early tomorrow morning, the Sniffer dogs will be back again, but at a different location. The police say it will take them about 2 to 3 days to complete the search. The dogs will be in the island for 2 weeks. The Transport Ministry is trying to determine how to treat the multi-million-dollar contract it has with a construction firm owned by Christopher Dudus Coke, because the assets of Mr. Coke have been ordered frozen. TVJ News caught up with Transport Minister Mike Henry this morning at an Air Services Agreement conference in Montego Bay, St. James. Latoya Johnson's report. According to the minister, Christopher Coke's contracts are among several which his ministry has been seeking legal advice on. When asked how the contract would be serviced since Mr. Coke's assets have been frozen, the minister had this to say.
This will have to come to me in advice under the Contractor General, stroke the Attorney General, because there are legal issues that relate. Right now, we don't know, and I don't want to see, but I want to put it in context. Right now, we may be dealing with companies that Bernie Madoff used to run. We may be dealing with companies that Olin used to run. So that all of that needs a process by which you're going to analyze where you are.
Mr. Henry says his ministry acted readily upon expression of doubt by the Office of the Contractor General regarding the contract with Mr. Coke. Over the last 2 years, the contracts have amounted to more than $140 million. It has not yet been ascertained whether Mr. Coke's company has contracts which are still pending. Previous contracts included the construction of a canteen at the Education Ministry and the renovation of the Ward Theatre. Latoya Johnson, TVJ News. Meanwhile, Christopher Dudus Coke remains behind bars tonight and will have to spend at least 1 more month there before he gets the chance to make a bail application. Dudus was remanded when he appeared in a New York court this afternoon. Camille Gales reports.
When Dudus went back to the Manhattan Federal Court in New York this afternoon, the hearing was brief. It was expected that Christopher Coke would have retained a high-profile team for today's hearing, but that was not the case. Dudus was again represented by the same court-appointed lawyer that stood beside him at his first hearing last Friday. But when the case was heard, the judge decided to remand Coke into police custody and give him 1 month to retain a lawyer. It's not clear what happened with plans to hire New York Attorney-at-Law Frank Dudus. This morning, an aide in Mr. Dudus' office told our news center that the lawyer had not yet been formally retained by Dudus. She said arrangements were being made for him to be retained and for the court to be formally notified during this afternoon's hearing, but that did not happen. Meanwhile, reports coming out of the United States are that Dudus has been under pressure to prove to the U.S. court that the money being used to pay his lawyers was not obtained illegally. Last Friday, when Dudus appeared before a judge in New York, he pleaded not guilty to charges of drug trafficking and gun running. Dudus will return to court in July. Camille Gale, TVJ News.
2 people were shot and killed in a house firebombed in 2 separate incidents in Havana Heights and Yorktown, Clarendon yesterday. Latoya Spence reports.
The violence began sometime after 4 this morning. The police were called to Plaza Street after residents nearby heard loud explosions. When they arrived, the lawmen saw the body of 27-year-old Paul McConnell. He was shot several times and died on the spot. Only minutes later, the police rushed from that scene to Havana Heights nearby. A house had been shot up. No one was hurt in that incident. The police are, however, theorizing that it was the same group of men that had killed Mr. McConnell that had done that shooting. And less than an hour later, sometime after 5, the police were called to Yorktown nearby. A house had been set ablaze by gunmen, but the occupants managed to put it out before major damage was done. And while the officers were still processing that scene, another alarm was raised that 58-year-old farmer Obert McLean was shot and killed while in his bed. Reports are that gunmen entered Mr. McLean's yard, kicked off the door to his house, then opened fire on him. He was hit several times and died on the spot. The spate of violence has left the community's tense. Councillor for the Yorktown Division, Yusuf Purcell, made an impassioned plea for an end to the ongoing violence in his division.
There are many persons who have already moved out of the community, and it is disturbing. There are homes that have been burnt that should not have been burnt. Houses that have been built by persons who have gone 80, 90 years old, and some of them have passed away before, some of them have lived to see their houses burned down. It is not right, and we cannot continue to tolerate this in the community. So we are calling on those youngsters who are involved to stop it, and stop it now.
Latoya Spence, CBJ News.
And over in St. Catherine, the police are coming under fire from residents over the shooting of an 18-year-old sixth form student in Sunnyside, Spanish Town last night. Krista Samuels reports.
Kemar Gordon was among a group of 4 teenage boys who had just finished studying at a friend's in Sunnyside, Spanish Town shortly after 9 last night when police on patrol drove up. The mother of the classmates with whom the boys were studying explained what happened next.
The police stopped to check them and he ran off, and that's how they shot him in his back. I guess he's surprised why he was the one that ran. Because I was told that the police asked him why he ran, and he said he was afraid, so.
Kemar remains in serious condition at the Spanish Town Hospital. Meanwhile, neighbors are adamant it was another case of excessive use of force by the police.
We went church walk and going up a restaurant. And then people that bird speed coming and start shot, fire shot. I know you bad youth, is that a bad youth in our school youth? Then go every morning go to school. You see? That is why we can't refer to walk on the school people.
When contacted, the police's communication arm said it had not yet received an official report on the shooting. Krista Samuels, TVJ News.
And still ahead tonight. Miller uses space to justify his actions from the politician. An unhealthy site at a health center.